Hi everyone. Today we're going to read another story about an interesting creature that lives in the sea. And it's about a hermit crab. And the thing about the hermit crab is that he doesn't stay in one shell as his house. As he grows, he needs to find new shells. So in this story, we're going to hear about a house for a hermit crab. And this is by Eric Carle. "Time to move," said the hermit crab one day in January. "I've grown too big for this little shell." He had felt safe and snug in his shell, but now it was too snug. Hermit crab stepped out of his shell and onto the floor of the ocean. But it was frightening out here in the open sea without a shell to hide in. "What if a big fish comes along and attacks me?" he thought. "I must find a new house soon." Here we see another school of fish. So early in February, Hermit Crab found just the house he was looking for. It was a big shell and it was strong, and he moved right in, wiggling and waggling about inside to see how it felt. And it felt just right. But it looks so, well, plain, thought the hermit crab. Plain means it's just kind of there. Nothing shiny or sparkly. So in March, which is our third month of the year, Hermit Crab found some sea anemones, and they swayed gently back and forth in the water. "How beautiful you are," said the Hermit Crab. "Would one of you be willing to come and live on my house? It's so plain and it needs you." "I'll come," whispered a small sea anemone. And so gently the Hermit Crab picked it up with his claw and he put it on his shell. Well, in April, Hermit Crab passed a flock of starfish moving slowly along the seafloor. "How handsome you are," said Hermit Crab. Would one of you be willing to decorate my house?" "I would," signaled a small sea star. So carefully, Hermit Crab picked it up with his claw and he put it on his house. Here's the sea anemone that he got last month. In May, Hermit Crab discovered some coral. They were hard and they didn't move. "How pretty you are," said Hermit Crab. "Would one of you be willing to help make my house more beautiful?" "I would," creaked a crusty coral. And gingerly, that means very, very softly, Hermit Crab picked it up with his claw and placed it on his shell. And it's going to join the sea anemone and the sea star or starfish. In June, Hermit Crab came across a group of snails crawling over a rock on the ocean floor, and they grazed as they went, picking up algae and bits of debris and leaving a nice path behind them. "How tidy and hard-working you are," said Hermit Crab. "Would one of you be willing to come and help clean my house?" "I would," offered one of the snails. So happily, Hermit Crab picked him up with his claw and placed him on his shell. So now we're going to have 4 things on his shell. In July, Hermit Crab came upon several sea urchins. They had sharp, prickly needles. "How fierce you look," said Hermit Crab. "Would one of you be willing to protect my house?" "I would," answered a spiky sea urchin, and gratefully, the hermit crab picked it up with its claw and placed it near his shell. So we have the coral, the anemone, the sea snail, and the starfish or sea star. Now we're going to get one of these guys. And there he is, near him, protecting his house. Well, in August, Hermit Crab and his friends wandered into a forest of seaweed. "It's so dark in here," thought Hermit Crab. "How dim it is," murmured the sea anemone. "How gloomy it is," whispered the starfish. "How murky it is," complained the coral. "I can't see," said the snail. "It's like nighttime," cried the sea urchin. And it does. It looks very dark, a dark forest-like area. Well, in September, Hermit Crab spotted a school of lanternfish darting through the dark water. "How bright you are," said Hermit Crab. "Would one of you be willing to light up our house?" "I would," replied one lanternfish, and it swam over near the shell. So now we're going to have light, protection, cleaning our house, and things that are beautiful in our house. Wow. In October, Hermit Crab approached a pile of smooth pebbles. "How sturdy you are," said Hermit Crab. "Would you mind if I rearranged you?" "Not at all," answered the pebbles. And Hermit Crab picked them up one by one with his claw and built a wall around his shell. "Now my house is perfect," cheered Hermit Crab. But in November, Hermit Crab felt that his shell seemed a bit too small. Little by little, over the year, Hermit Crab had grown. Soon he would have to find another bigger home. But he had come to love his friends, the sea anemone, the starfish, the coral, the sea urchin, the snail, the lanternfish, and even the small smooth pebbles. "They have been so good to me," thought the Hermit Crab. "They are like family. How can I ever leave them?" In December, a smaller hermit crab passed by. "I've outgrown my shell," she said. "Would you know a place for me?" "I have outgrown my house too," answered Hermit Crab. "I must move on. You are welcome to live here, but you must promise to be good to my friends." "I promise," said the little crab. The following January, Hermit Crab stepped out and the little crab moved in. "Couldn't stay in that little shell forever," said Hermit Crab as he waved goodbye. The ocean floor looked wider than he had remembered, but Hermit Crab wasn't afraid. Soon he spied the perfect house, a big empty shell. It looked, well, a little plain. But sponges, he thought, barnacles, clownfish, sand dollars, electric eels. Oh, there are so many possibilities. I can't wait to get started. The end. And here's some coral. Wasn't that great?